morning. So today we're covering some artificial intelligence powered tools for your literature review process. Um, Today we'll be covering specifically a plugin for Zotero that shows you roughly how often something has been cited. We will also cover a visualization tool, a article discovery tool called Research Rabbit. Very useful for when you're wondering how your articles and resources you're finding are connected. And then lastly, we're going to cover some artificial intelligence powered chatbot tools that specifically allow you to upload PDFs and then have discussions with those PDFs. You're not really talking to the PDF, you're not really talking to the author of that document, but you are talking to a statistically created language model that looks at the most common ways that somebody might pull out information from that article. Gets really interesting once we get to that last point, but let's start off pretty simple here. And I'm going to go ahead and share the full screen here. So the kinds of things I have open to work with are the different tools I just mentioned. And then I have Zotero the program open. And just before I logged in today, I just found a topic and I started saving things here. So I've got what, about 9 or 10 items here, a book chapter, a few articles, and some books. I already have this site extension for Zotero installed, and I have the total number of citations, distinct citations, that will display next to these items. Books, I notice it's better with articles than it is with books. I very much think that these books are also well cited out in the literature. It's just this particular program, it's a computer-enabled program, doesn't know everything. So make sure to take that with a grain of salt. The other things I can do, I don't know if many people know, but when you right click at this top bar, you can customize what you see. So this total distinct citing publications is from this extension that I have for Zotero. I can also have how many supporting citations or contrasting citations. I can have that showing. Another way, let's say I've read this article and I want to see, these 42 people, what did they say? When I right click on the article, I can choose to view the cite report. So then it takes me to this particular website, and hopefully it'll load quickly. Okay, so here's the article. And you do have to create an account, but they will let you see some things for free. And it used to be you got to see a lot more than this. Here, they at least let you break it down. 8 books have cited this article and 33 articles. In the past, they would show you a little bit more than just this one. So evidently there's this 2018 article, and I can see if they'll take me to the full text of it. So this was someone's thesis that got published in a series. Yeah, book. So the good news is that this number that shows up just allows you to prioritize maybe what you read first, I would say. So if you're interested, it is listed in the library guide link that I posted in the chat, but this is what that link sends you to. This is where they introduce what this plugin is. So then they talk about what it allows you to do. They even have a demo video that probably does a lot better than me right now. But I believe the way you install it is you just go to that link. Yeah. And then you want to download this file right here, the .xpi. And then in Zotero, you go to your go to add-ons, sorry, and then install add-on from file. So that again, that was going to tools, add-ons, and the gear install add-on from file. So I have this one up here. So that's an easy one to add, and I think it allows you to prioritize your readings accordingly. The next one is really cool and lets you do a whole lot of stuff for free. That's my, the more I can get for free, the better it is. It's researchrabbit.ai, and I've already created a free account. When you go to researchrabbit.ai, you just sign up for that free account. So once you've got that account set up, this is what the home dashboard looks like. You can create a new collection of resources just on your own, uploading things, telling it what you're searching for. I much prefer connecting Zotero and importing Zotero collections. So you can see I've done this demo a few times. I have a few collections here. Some of these have a lot of items, like the Interfaith Chaplaincy one. I've got handbooks and articles. And what it'll do is it'll tell you, oh, I can kind of see out there in the wild that there's about 1,000 resources that are similar to these. And it even breaks it apart by time. So let's go ahead and see all these similar works to all of these. And here's where it gets cool. This visual map lets you see these green ones are the ones that I have added to my collection. And then the blue dots are ones that I haven't added yet. But as I zoom in, I can see that there's this same author wrote two different sources, and he cites, so the arrow's going out, cites these works, and he used in 2017 some of the same sources as he improved his ideas. So then you can go over and see other ones that I've cited and see, oh, these, so Kaj also cites this Abu Ross article. And as you see these connections, you might go, oh, there are some of these that aren't connected to these other resources, but I've added them to the collection. And then there's also these other ones that I've not added, but they might be relevant. So I'm curious. I'm going to go with Fletcher and see what this one's about. This is about psychological resilience, and it's more conceptual than it is about praxis. And since I think this collection was about chaplaincy, I think I want something a little bit more practical, but it was interesting that I could discover that particular one. Let's go over here and see what this one is. Oh, this is very practical. So here's the opposite. This resource cited Koenig, but it's a little bit later on. She also cited another Koenig. He also cited another Koenig article. And I haven't added it to my collection yet. And it's about taking your spiritual history. So then I can go, hey, this seems pretty relevant. I'm going to add this to my collection. What's really cool is I've added it here. I can do some more exploring based on that article. So let me add, let's play in a new folder here. I'm going to import the border crossing resources, the newer one. So it I've put a year in front of it so that collection is right up towards the top. I'm going to go ahead and start the sync. And here is the important part, name it the same. So it's easy to find. Okay. And this is amazing. So it found everything that I'd listed, or relatively close. So it was able to match 5 out of the 9 resources. Sometimes what will happen is it will hit the books or the book chapters and will prompt you with, oh, I saw that you'd wanted me to add this. Is this the same resource? And with books, it will often match them with the book review, not the actual books. So just be very careful with what you pick as the match, because citing a book review is much different from citing the actual book. So here's all my migration work here. This particular article seemed pretty foundational. So I want to look at all the ones that have cited this particular work. So this one found 51, and I think this is the one that Cite said it found 49. So you'll get different numbers from different computer programs here. Sure enough, there's that. I remember the Free Methodist Church, so they both found that one. I believe lighter colored dots mean fewer. It's been cited not as many times. So let's see if that's true. So this one, yeah, it doesn't seem to see too many citations, versus this one has more connected to it. You can find newer work. So this particular one, this involves incarceration, and I'm going to want to stay closer to this concept of migration. So as I go through, there's more missionary related stuff, xenophobia, refugee advocacy and settlement. This is kind of interesting. I'm going to go ahead and add it. It's just a different way to find sources. So I just added the sacred welcomes. And I'm going to re-sync my Zotero here. And there's the article here. Sacred welcomes. It has all the authors, all the information I need to cite it, except for the publication title. So again, computers, I need the publication title in order to cite this. So Zotero is pretty cool. I can tell it, search out there, see if you can find a PDF for this thing. So I can see more information about it. And it did. So it's about 6, 7 times out of 10, Zotero is smart enough with the information given to go out there and find a PDF, maybe through Google Scholar, maybe through the GTU resources. So there's that PDF. And this is, it has page numbers, so it is in a larger source. They call it special section. So I can't, and it doesn't really have the copyright page or anything. There's the works cited here. So there could be some great other sources listed here. Got all of those. So let's see where this thing came from. That's the only thing I dislike, is that sometimes you'll add something from Research Rabbit and this guy's listed twice. So I'm going to go ahead and take this one out. So it wasn't in the GTU's resources. So I'm gonna, Google Scholar is usually my next bet. And it is in a journal. So I'm gonna take this information and add it over here. And I think I've now successfully have this ready to cite, and it's a thing that I would not have discovered in the GTU's resources. All right, so that is Research Rabbit. It's the number one tool that I recommend because it will allow you to have this unique visual and to quickly add other things that are citing each other. It's sometimes also neat to see the timeline view. So we can see that there's a cluster of things here in the mid 2000s. So depending on how you're approaching a topic, maybe you want earlier articles or later articles. Very interesting way to view these. You can also, if you're working on a group project, let me move my Zoom bar out of the way. You can share this with other people and add people who also have Research Rabbit accounts so you can work on that group project together, adding sources together. Very cool, works with Zotero. Nice to be able to organize your sources in a cohesive way. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to our next one. So Chat PDF. So there's Chat GPT. This is Chat PDF. So I'm going to take one of my articles. Let's see here. There's the Grudy article that was well cited, and I have to find where it is. Index item rename. Show file. So I want to see where it is in my computer. So there it is. And I'm going to drag it and drop it here. Okay, so as soon as you add a PDF, and notice how it has an upgrade, so there's probably a limited amount of chats you can do with particular articles. So it will give you a synopsis here. And then it'll even ask you, it suggests particular questions you can ask. So I'm going to go ahead and be lazy and I'll use this last one. The number one critique of, actually, there are a few different critiques, but the number one critique of these particular chatbots is that it's shallow. So while the summary may be good looking and good, like in a way a fourth grader's, summary can be good, Cliff Notes can be good, it won't give you the depth that you need from actually reading it yourself. So something that I like about what this thing does is it says that this image of God plays a crucial role in understanding dignity in nature, that this last sentence is kind of confusing. Grudy argues that defining individuals, especially migrants, in terms of the image of God shifts the discourse from viewing them as mere social or political problems to recognizing their fundamental humanity and value. See, that's something that I would want to make sure that that's what he's really saying. Because it's not really about defining all human beings in terms of the image of God provides a very different starting point for a different, I would argue that it's maybe not really definition, it's this thing of labeling. So the word choice, where he did say defining, but earlier he said labeling, and there's a way that humans make meaning out of things that maybe the language model will pick the wrong word and cause you to make the wrong assumption about what the article is truly saying. So the thing that I like is that I can hop to a particular point in the article and read it for myself to see if that's really the case. Always good to put things in your own words. The other thing to note is that these models are trained off of, you know, the internet and perhaps some other scholarly articles that are floating out there, but the body of things that are on the internet and even the people who design these things are majority white. So the viewpoint of this language model is going to come from a majority white perspective. It's not really going to come at things from a global perspective or a minority perspective. In fact, it might erase those particular unique viewpoints and unique ways to analyze. So just be very careful with how you use this because it can amplify the bias that academics have towards that white colonial perspective. Um, we could, I'm curious. I haven't gotten too much time to play with this. What is the most cited work in this article? Oh, how cool. So I would play with this. If there was an article or maybe even a class reading that I was having trouble with, of course I'd go through and try to read it myself, but there's definitely questions that you can ask of it to see, am I getting the main points out of this article? What are some unanswered questions this article poses? Oh, this question I like to ask because this could potentially lead you into an interesting direction. One, in how you search for more articles for your paper, or two, how you design and propose your own research. This is very cool. So Chat PDF, very good. You can organize your articles into folders. What I would do, I think the online storage is limited. If I liked this particular response, I would just highlight it and then bring it over into Zotero by adding a note. So I might say from Chat PDF, so I know where I got this, and then post it here. Which brings me to another thing. If you find language within Chat PDF or any of these language models, you've got to be really careful and make sure to cite that. And even before you cite it, make sure you have a conversation with your professor about, is it okay for me to take a sentence from Chat PDF, or do I need to restate this in my own words? Even journals out there are developing statements where they won't accept any AI generated writing or even AI generated graphics, because there are some tools that will generate graphs or visualizations. So just be really careful on how you use these tools, and make sure you delineate your own values for what is your writing. Is it okay for me to do this first before I even read the article? Probably not. There's a certain ethics to your own research that you'll want to develop. So there's Chat PDF. All right, so our final artificial intelligence powered research tool is a product from Google called Notebook LM. Now, this is a really exciting and somewhat scary tool, and it uses some of the things that we've already seen in Chat PDF and perhaps puts it in a environment that many people may already be more comfortable with. In contrast to Chat PDF, this is a Google product, so you have to sign in with a Google account. You may not be able to use your school account or work account because the administrators, the IT staff at your school or work might lock out this particular function. So I've signed in with my personal Gmail account, and I've already started playing at notebooklm.google.com with my own, what they call notebook with two sources. You can also just get a idea of the capabilities by playing with their example notebooks. I'm going to go ahead and hop in to the border crossing notebook. Over here on the left, you'll have a complete list of your sources. You can upload text files, I think images as well, PDF articles. It won't handle an Excel file yet, but maybe it'll do that in the future. You could link to slideshows. You can add up to 50 sources at the time. So I've just added 2. If you want to add another one, you can hit the plus icon. So to decide what exactly I want to add next, I'm gonna sort, and I don't think I've actually added the Grudy article. So I'm going to show where that file is, and then I'm going to add the source. So I can drag and drop, could link to a video, I could start typing or pasting my own notes here. So let's go and bring the Grudy article in. So then I can deselect or select articles and just start chatting with them. So what would be 5 example theses for my own argumentative paper that covers migration from this perspective? So unlike Chat GPT or Copilot or Anthropic's Claude bot, which uh, first grabs from all its available sources all across the web, this is a bot you can train yourself to look at just a narrow pool of resources and do a lot more targeted searches. You can also do the same sort of prompting things, like maybe ask it to work as a theologian or as a philosopher and address a certain question, or format a response in a particular way. We'll experiment with that a little bit further. And this question seems to be taking it a little while. And perhaps if I'd uploaded my own document, it might use some of my own ideas already that are already working towards a research question. I would hesitate to use this tool first because it might lead me in a direction that I may not want to go in. Some of these are way too general or too broad to cover in my own paper, depending on the page limit. This one, though, the concept of social holiness in Methodist theology can be extended to advocate for just immigration policies that uphold the dignity of migrants and promote the common good. This seems to have a good basis that I'd want to edit depending on my knowledge of Methodist theology. Let's try a new prompt. Pretend you are a pastor that is reluctant to embrace these migrant theologies. What would be your top 3 reasons against them? and it offers some interesting ideas. They're not exactly specific, so they're a little bit shallow. Like what exactly would um, a pastor add to bullet number 2? They don't really get into that. They just give like who else, um, like the general populace sort of response. I like how there's citations where you can go and see uh, where the articles themselves might have brought up contrasts. So these are particular contrasting moments in this particular article. Let's see, that's from Fan. This is also from Fan. So it will cite things from the different articles. So it wasn't all from that one source. So I could close this chat, or I could go over to the notebook guide where they've already placed some helpful go-to summaries and tools for your grouping of resources. So the FAQ is exactly what it sounds like. It's going to generate what it considers the top questions um, brought about by these resources. And again, it takes it a little while. These are good discussion questions. So if I was an instructor, I might use this to help me come up with discussion questions after some course readings. So if you always feel like your professor surprises you with the topics that come up in discussion, you could always throw in your class readings and see with the FAQ, what are they likely to ask me about in class. Another thing you can do is just get a briefing doc, which is a more in-depth summary than what they provide here. I also like the table of contents for quickly getting at a glance where certain concepts are covered in various articles. So it's going to take a while to generate that. So you can see I've already created that briefing doc earlier on. And here's the table of contents. So it goes through all the different sources and gives you the roadmap for them. So I'm going to go back to the notebook guide. And probably the most talked about is this podcast feature. So it's set up so that it takes some of the major ideas from whatever you upload and gives those ideas to 2 fake AI generated podcast hosts. This one that I generated sounded a lot like it was based off of Radiolab, and it's a little scary how good it is. In a moment, you will hear a podcast for one of the sample notebooks, but probably one of the most fun things to play with on your own is to upload your own sources and get this podcast feature. A lot more fun for folks who like to listen more than they like to read. So definitely play with that feature. It takes probably about a minute to load, and the conversation can be anywhere from a couple of minutes to 15 minutes, some people have seen. Know that Google is probably using all of this information to train its bot. So decide very carefully what you want to upload here, especially if you're uploading your own writing to this particular source. And as always, check with your faculty to make sure that this is an appropriate use of artificial intelligence for your class or for your paper. This is a very powerful tool. So here's their sample documents. So here they've added 4 on light bulbs. So let's load the conversation. Let's see.
Light bulbs, right? They're so normal now, like we just kind of expect them to be there so we can actually see what we're doing when it gets dark.
It really is funny when you think about it, like flick a switch, bam, instant sunshine no matter what time it is.
But getting to that instant light, wasn't instant ATLL.
Mhm.
And the stuff you sent over
Yeah.
about the light bulb itself, about Swan, about Edison, man, it proves how anything bitty simple the whole thing was.
It's so true. We're just so used to electric light now that most of us don't even think about what went into it, you know? And what's cool is what we've got here, it lets us bust some myths wide open, like that whole lone geniuses thing people love to slap on inventions.
Hmm.
Yeah, not so much.
Totally. It's like we're about to show everyone that making a light bulb wasn't just one aha moment. It was decades of people getting close, some serious competition, and in the end, it's actually a story about teamwork, making the dream work.
100%. And you find that right in the materials, like way before Edison even shows up, people are trying to crack this. Humphrey Davy, back.
So I'll stop that podcast right there. What's fascinating is that there were these verbal interjections, like teamwork makes the dream work, um, totally. And there was a certain rhythm to the way they were speaking that showed that it had been trained off of YouTube videos. But what was missing is each interviewer, there wasn't really a pause that they were listening and responding. So it was saying things in the right order and the right rhythm, but it was still missing that human component a little bit. But the way that they're getting so close to making it almost indistinguishable from reality is pretty scary. But so on the other side of that, and that's how I find myself dealing with these tools, is that's an incredible and engaging way to um, think about the ideas from a group of articles. So what would be really cool is to upload maybe 4 of those border crossing or whatever the best articles that I found, maybe even some articles who disagree with each other, and then seeing what kind of podcast this Notebook LM tool creates. And with that, that was the grouping of resources that I wanted to show and demo. Hopefully you found one that you wanted to use. And please reach out to me with any questions.